One of the reasons that I tell women that they need to have a business is because of the tax advantages.
Something I've learned the hard way is when my husband and I were both W-2, taxes crushed us. Like, again, we live in California. I was like, we're making good money. Why does it feel like we're not? And it's because taxes took everything.
I want to give a quick shout out to my podcast manager, Abby. If you're in need of help in launching and managing your own show, please reach out to her at productions@abbygwaki.com. I'll put her details in the show notes. She really is the best, and I love her. Hello and welcome to the Quiet Wealth Podcast. I'm so excited that you have joined us today, and I have an amazing guest that I'm excited to introduce you to. Her name's Lauren Wells. But first, if you are new here, welcome. I'm so excited that you've joined us here at Quiet Wealth. We're all about empowering Gen X women to build wealth, build businesses, and leave a legacy. And so we are going to talk to the amazing Lauren Wells, who I met over a year ago, and she and I are in a very similar space. We love investing. We love group investing, and we're going to be talking about all the things that she's doing to build her business as well as leave a legacy. So first, Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't believe it's been a year since we first met. I feel like it was the longest and shortest year. I'm happy to be here and share my insight.
Perfect. So start us off, Lauren. Give us an overview of your journey. Like, how did you get to where you are today in terms of building wealth?
Yeah. Oh, man. So I feel like I was very fortunate in that I was raised not with like a lot of the investment mindset that I have now, but I was taught a little bit about debt and that not all debt is bad. So I feel like I did have a leg up kind of growing up and seeing my parents who were starting basically their investment journey for the first time of their families, kind of going through that. But I did the very stereotypical route. I went to university, I got a job, and worked a W-2 corporate job for many, many years until I realized that I don't know if I can do this until I'm, well, at this point, it's probably going to be like 70. But, you know, but I started seeing people around me who had been investing in real estate and buying homes and renting them out or house hacking. And I live in California. And I was terrified to invest out of state in a physical asset. So I found mortgage notes. I networked a ton and I kind of saw what other people were doing. I've always been partial to real estate. My husband is more of the stock market guy. And I'm, just seeing where people's wealth kind of lies. A lot of it has always been built in real estate. So I kind of went that route, attended so many different networking events and meetups, really speaking with people and just asking, how'd you get started? What did you get started with? Probably like an annoying amount of times. And I'm a true believer in just like networking and mentors. And I found a few mentors, and one of them suggested mortgage notes. And I actually read every single book I could find on it, interviewed about 20, 30 people in the space. And what I liked about it was a low cost of entry and it was still secured by physical real estate, even though you weren't becoming like the property owner. Went that route. And since then, I felt like that was like my first taste of non-stock market or saving. I feel like there was a lot of emphasis on just saving when I was growing up, which is always funny because you're like, well, if I save and it just sits there, it's basically dying with the rate of inflation. It's shrinking. So I think that starting with mortgage notes, although it's a super niche asset class, gave me the confidence to then say, okay, like what else is out there where I can invest passively, not doing this, but more as like a private money notes. I've done a lot of those. I've invested in a few syndications, but it was really just like picking something and getting started that really kind of got me.
So you've talked about mortgage notes. So let's educate our audience on what exactly is a mortgage note.
My favorite way to describe what investing in mortgage notes looks like is basically like fixing and flipping a home. So I would purchase a mortgage note, which is essentially secures the loan to a property. So if you purchased a house or you own a home, you sign a mortgage and with it comes a note. So it's basically a promise to repay your mortgage on time per the terms of your agreement. Now, I purchased these at a significant discount because banks are looking to sell them. I'm sure people listening might be able to relate. Again, if you've ever gotten a letter in the mail that says, hey, Chase Bank sold your loan to Bank of America, your new payments are going to go here. So I would be considered one of the people that it got sold to, a seller. So I buy mortgages. I assume the position of the bank. Typically, I invest in distressed mortgages, meaning people who haven't paid. So that's kind of like investing in that just fix and flip home. Like you're buying a house that's not in great condition. Maybe the interior needs to be fixed. For mortgage notes, typically it means the borrower is behind 90 days. And then because of that, I'm getting it at a discount. I'm then reworking the note because I got it at a discount. It gives me the flexibility to work with the borrower and come up with a new payment structure or take their past due and add it to the end of the term. And then that increases the value of the note, which I then resell on the secondary market for a profit. Similar to the fix and flip model, buying something distressed, adding value, and then selling it on the secondary market for a profit.
And how long does this take to do?
Good question. Typically, in order to acquire the note, work something out with the borrower, season it, meaning they've made consistent payments for about 6 to 12 months, I'd say your hold time is anywhere from 12 to 18 months. 12 being very aggressive and fast, 18 being more on the average end.
And can you do this in bulk or is this just like one at a time?
So there are sellers that will sell one-offs or allow you to cherry pick, so to speak. My business partner and I actually purchase in bulk because you get better pricing. It's kind of like going to Costco. You're going to get better pricing on all the stuff you need because it's in bulk and you're like, I don't need 10,000 paper towels, but I'm going to do it because I know I'll use them. I don't know where I'm going to store them. That's kind of the same.
Yes. We love bulk shopping here at the Jeffs household. And we got 5 kids. And so, Costco is our go-to for sure. For sure. Okay. Awesome. So if somebody was interested in investing in notes like that, it sounds like it's an active strategy. It's not a passive strategy. So it's for sure an active one, right? How would you suggest they go about getting involved?
Oh, there's quite a few ways. I would say read up on it first. It's very active. There are people who invest in performing mortgage notes, which is much more passive, meaning these borrowers are consistently paying. You might get a slight discount on the note and you're getting those payments cash flow. But how I would get started is I would honestly read up on it and see if it's something you want to undertake as an individual investor, because there are a lot of different little quirks about it. And deciding, do I want to invest nationally? Do I want to invest in a single state? Kind of creating your buy box, I guess, similar to if you were to buy an actual physical property. So reading into it, seeing if this is something you really want to take on as an active investor. I think that's kind of the first thing. Like, do you want to be active or passive? And if you want to be active, then okay, where do I want to purchase? And then from there, I would network with people in the space. I think that because it is such a small space, who you know and the relationships you establish build credibility in the industry and allow you to have more access to inventory. So like anything, when I first started out, I had one guy who sends out tapes to everybody and I was like kind of competing against all these people for bids. Now, I've been in the industry quite a bit and we have different sellers where we have exclusive relationships with them. So I think it's just about finding out if you want to be an active investor. And if you do, what does it look like? What capital do you have to work with? And what relationships can you build to build a list of inventory that comes to you?
Okay. So what made you decide that mortgage notes was the thing to invest in, right? Like there's so many strategies in real estate, and so I think we've established that we believe in real estate here. So there's tons of strategies that you can employ. There's burring, there's flipping, there's small multis, medium multis, large multis, syndication, like so many different ways that you can get involved. And mortgage notes is not one that I hear very often that people say, oh yeah, I'm doing note investing, right? I have a couple of friends who do it, but it's definitely not the majority. So why was that appealing to you?
Yeah, so really the economic climate at the time. And again, I live in California. And so the Burr method, all the things that I wanted to do from like a physical property were not going to be feasible in California with my budget that I had to get started with. While I think it would have been a good investment, I wasn't willing to put like all my eggs in one basket at that point. So I liked that I could still invest throughout the country. And then this brings me to the second thing, risk. It could be a long process, but it's super low risk because at the end of the day, if the borrower decides, hey, I'm never going to pay you, you have the option to foreclose or do a deed in lieu or a cash for keys. And so you're secured by a physical asset. I know that's the case with, again, most anything. Like if I was to buy a home in California, yes, it's a physical asset, but I'm really subject to the whims of the market and the policies in the city. Say it was an Airbnb, they could change their Airbnb policies. There was too much external policies that I didn't love in other asset classes. I wanted as much like straightforward, they work with you or you go to foreclosure. And that's where you can control when you're investing, how much equity is there in the property. So that kind of gives you an extra layer of protection. So it was really the low risk and the economic climate at the time when I got started and where I wanted to invest.
And so now that you do this in bulk, is there a way for people to partner with you?
Yeah. When we first started out, I was an individual investor, did this very actively. And I will say I got into it thinking it would be more passive. So that's why I say read up on it. Honestly, maybe don't read up on it. Talk to people because the books make it sound like it's passive. The books make it sound like it's very passive. I got into it then. I met my current business partner who was doing a ton of joint ventures. And there's just a need for people wanting that low risk, passive income, not active. So we'd done a few other funds, but in 2022, we launched a Regulation A plus offering. And what's cool about this, and this was really like a passion project of mine, because looking back, a Regulation D is significantly easier.
Yes.
And we have a Reg A. But the Reg A really, what that means is anyone who wants to invest is accredited, non-accredited, everyone's available to invest in this type of offering. You know, it's qualified by the SEC, regulated by the SEC. And so we launched that in July of 2022. It just really opened up the doors for people who were looking to kind of dip their toe into getting, started with an alternative investment. Like alts is like the scary word for a lot of people. You're like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and alternatives. It's like, whoa, like way too risky. And so I think the passion behind one, giving everybody the opportunity to invest and get started without like a 100K minimum or a 50K minimum was a big part of it. But then also like the education. A lot of what we do now is really the education around our asset class and alternatives in general and how they can be a source of passive income. So our fund specifically has a minimum of $5,000 and we are paying an 8 to 11% return depending on investment amount. And that's annually, and we pay monthly distributions. And the purpose of that was to, again, kind of give people that light bulb moment of like, oh, like I'm investing and I'm getting a monthly check to help subsidize my lifestyle. So I'd say half of our investors are probably planning or prepping for retirement and looking for some sort of alternative investment to offset whatever they're going to get from Social Security or their pension or whatever that they have invested in other assets. And so it's been really interesting to see because my favorite investor is a school nurse who I met with her and her husband, and they were very, very hesitant, oh my gosh, alternatives, but like the stock market's not doing great and we're about to retire and everything's super volatile. So like we are going to have to look at something else. So she started out with $20,000. She's been with us for just under a year. She's come back 3 additional times and reinvested more because she's seeing like, I think I received an email from her 2 weeks ago and she was like, this is so awesome. Like I'm seeing that distribution come in every month. I feel like the light bulb like clicked for her. And she was like, oh, this is like another way to build wealth or to build passive income. Like I don't need to invest by myself. So
Mhm.
that's like the really cool part about what we do and what I love. When I get emails like that, it makes me super happy.
Same. Just being able to impact other people's lives and help them to get comfortable with, more interesting investments, I guess, than like for me, stock market's boring. I don't I don't
Well,
know what the companies are doing or what's happening, right? But if you invest in real estate and these group investments or these funds and you're getting an education along the way, which I also think is pretty awesome too.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Again, if we didn't have that true passion behind the Reg A, as you know, we would not be doing it. And I think for investors too, something about the Reg A that they like is that we do have to submit audited financials. And we have a huge auditing firm like Grant Thornton who does our audit every year for the SEC. It's publicly available. So there's like that
mm,
transparency for people who obviously when you invest, you want to make sure you're investing with someone that you feel like you can trust and there is that communication, but it's like that added layer of like transparency that the SEC has for investors.
yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, that's amazing. I love it. You've done some pretty cool things. When did you leave your W-2? Or are you still in your W-2?
No, I'm not in my W-2. I'm
Okay.
the way that our fund is structured, I'm essentially an employee of our company. I'm one of the company and a W-2 employee. But the corporate
Yeah.
world, real estate world, I left in 2017. For me, the big catalyst was having my son and being like, okay, I need more time. I don't want to sit at a desk all day. I want to be able to kind of choose what my lifestyle looks like and plan around the vision for my kids, my family, and everything. And so
Mm,
I kind of had been dabbling in both up until that point, and then I kind of just ripped the band-aid off and went for it.
that's amazing. And so if I have the timeline correct, so you left W-2 2017, you started investing in notes on your own, and then in 2022, you launched the group and you have the big business that you have
Correct.
now, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So talk to me about building businesses. So this is the second pillar of quiet wealth is building a business. Was it easy?
So this is not my first rodeo when it comes to building businesses. So when I was working my W-2 job, I had known probably since 2013 that I wanted out. And I was a fail fast type person. So I try something and I just go for it, learn. If it worked, cool. If it didn't work, iterate and move on. So I have literally done everything. I had a digital marketing consultancy, I was a sales consultant. And those were just me and maybe some contractors. If anything, I feel like it's pretty crazy the amount of information we have at our fingertips these days and how much opportunity there is to create a business, not even in the, hey, we're CWS, we have 10 employees, we have healthcare and benefits, all of that. But just, taking that chance and starting is like the hardest part. But I feel like I've learned so much and it's really gotten me to where I am today and building this business out. But I would be lying if I didn't say I was at a conference this week where I was like, oh my gosh, we have so much to like. I'm like, yeah, we're crushing it. We've raised X amount. We've raised just over $20 million. Our investors are happy. We have a ton of interest from, the broker dealer world as far as capital allocations. I'm like, we're doing great. But also we have all these things everyone's trying to tell us we need and we need now and they need to be set up. And it's like, it's evaluating, do we actually need this or are we being sold to? How is this going to impact the team? Who's going to take this on? We're finally comfortable and in a groove, and I don't want to grow anymore in that capacity. I just want to cruise. So you have to be okay with like a little bit of uncertainty. My husband, for example, he's a consultant. He's like the corporate rock. He was in corporate for like 20 years and was like, okay, when this business started taking off with the kids, and again, that importance to us of being there and being involved, he pulled back and launched a consulting agency because he could charge more and work less. And now he came to me a few days ago with a question about, oh, should I drop this client and really focus on this one client? It's that confidence in yourself. I'm like, do you have the confidence that if that one client you go to says, hey, we're done, that you could figure out something else? And he was like, yeah. I was like, well, then do it because, it's going to give you more time. You're going to be more focused and available. And I think it just comes down to that like confidence that you'll figure it out. You'll
Mhm.
figure it out. You can do it. There's so much information, again, available to us on the internet that it's sometimes too much.
Yeah. Well, I'm all about having a business. And one of the reasons that I tell women that they need to have a business is because of the tax advantages. Well, there's significant advantages to having a business, and tax advantages is one of them. In fact, I just finished a course that I created, just a little baby course about like hidden tax advantages for business owners, because you don't know what you don't know. And when you start off with a business, you're leaking money all over the place because you just don't know. So the tax advantages are huge, but it's also actually, if you do some research, it's the primary way that people build wealth in the United States is having your own business.
And I think something I've learned the hard way is when my husband and I were both W-2, taxes crushed us. Like, again, we live in
Mhm.
California. I was like, we're making good money. Why does it feel like we're not? And it's because
Yeah.
taxes took everything. And we learned that there's really two ways to build wealth. There's your investments, which I think everyone pushes really hard on investing your money to grow it. But honestly, if you look at the people who are super successful, they focus on keeping the money they earn.
Mhm.
And that's where the tax benefits come in. So my first few businesses were S Corps, which was great. I set up a solo 401k. I put a ton of money in as an employer and an employee. I hired my children. I feel like there should be a college course for kids or high school or post college, I don't know, available. Maybe your mini course is it that talks about these things. Cause I had to like learn it on my own. I didn't have a course. I had people telling me, you should look into this. And when you're trying to run a business, then you're also like trying to figure out how to maximize your tax benefits. You're like, it's a lot. I feel like that is something I wish I had known. And something actually that is a big focus of ours now is okay, great. Now that we have these investments, how do we focus on keeping that money and not paying as much in taxes?
And it's the whole game, right? Like the rules are written for us. The rules are out there. They're written, it's just a matter of us figuring it out and being able to keep more of what we are earning. One of the things that I love is that when you are an employee of a corporation, you earn money, then you get taxed on all of that money that you earned, and then you spend your money on your expenses. Well, if you're a business owner, you get to flip that script. You earn money, you spend what you need to spend, and then you're taxed on whatever is left. So it makes a huge difference. And same thing, when I figured out that I could pay my children and, shift income to them, I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And this year in 2023, you can shift up to, I think, $13,000 to your children tax free. So you hire your children in your business. Now, of course, make sure it's a legitimate job that they're doing, but they can do like the little ones can clean your office. They can organize files. They can, for us, we like to send out books to our investors after they invest, like gifts or whatever. So the kids can package those gifts. There's lots of things that they can do for you in your business. And then as they get older, like my teenagers, they're helping me run my social media. They're helping me like, when we flip houses, of course, they go and they work in the houses and they sheetrock and tile and do all of that stuff. But we've been able to use that strategy and shift income to the kids. And then the kids can turn around and start investing themselves. So it's a super powerful strategy. Like, forget the 529 plans, people. Like, open up a business, pay your kids, shift income to them, and then let them invest that and grow and, start, because we all know that starting early is better than starting late because of the effect of compounding. So it's kind of a guarantee that your kids will be millionaires well before you ever did it. It's a pretty cool thing to get them going, and they're working for it. It's not like they're trust fund babies. We're just giving them all the money. They're working for it.
I know. I always forget that. And it's, again, such a focus of ours is keeping more of what we earn.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. Well, Lauren, let's talk about the third pillar, which is leaving a legacy. So I know you're young and like you're in the middle of raising your babies and stuff. So, but talk to me about what kind of legacy are you hoping to leave for future generations?
That's a big question because there's the financial side of it and then there's like the human being side of it. I think for me, I love educating and working with just people in general, but when I think of like my kids and what I hope to leave for them, I want to give them confidence as probably the number one thing. And I think because that's probably the biggest thing you need in order to take that first step. Like I mentioned, like that confidence, everything is figure outable. It's like what I want to say. Yeah. Confidence and hard work, and then educating them honestly in all the things I wish I had known when I was younger. Let's start young and then have the confidence to take what I've learned and implement it on my own, whether that is starting a business. Maybe it's not going to college. I really want to give them the confidence in taking whatever knowledge they learn and implementing it in life. Obviously, I would love to leave financially. I would love to leave them well and figure out how we can teach them how to grow wealth and not just like, I think every parent wants their kids to be hardworking and not just like, oh, like mom and dad are going to build this for me. So I'm still figuring that out. Maybe this is a conversation you and I should have offline about how do I raise them into teens and college kids that are working to build their own thing and not just relying on what me and my husband have built.
Here at the Jeffs household, we have a lot of conversations about failure. That's a legacy that I want to pass on, is that failure is a good thing, not a bad thing. And I think it stems because in my childhood, I was a perfectionist, and early adulthood, I was stuck in perfectionism. And I didn't even realize that I was until I saw it reflected in my oldest daughter. I was teaching her to play the piano. So I'm a pianist, and I was teaching kids to play the piano. Well, she would get a new piece. So every week, if you've ever taken piano lessons, you go to your piano teacher and you get, you pass off your song and you get a new song. Well, facing a new song, obviously you're not going to be able to play it perfect the first time. But in her mind, she felt like she should be able to play it perfect the first time. So and I was her teacher, right? And so it adds a little bit of an extra emotional issue going on there, where she would just break down and just cry and sob like every week, like clockwork. The first 2 days of the week with her new songs, she would just sob and cry because she couldn't play it well. And then finally, day 3, she started playing it. And then day 4 or 5, she had it perfect, and then she'd pass it off. But it was just so frustrating as a parent to see that reflected, and to look at that and be like, okay, we are having an issue here because we've been praising them for their accomplishments, not for the hard work that it takes along the way to get there, right? So we were praising the wrong thing. We were focused on the wrong thing. So that lesson taught me to shift and actually praise the hard work and be like, oh, you put in so much hard work today. I know that was really hard work. And, like she still cried about it, but shifting that to praise the hard work helped the kids realize that that's more important than the actual result, right? So we're not really results focused. So if the kids fail at something, we're like, woo, high five for failure, right? Like we high five about it here at our house. And I share with them my failures. I mean, I have failures weekly in my business, in what I'm doing. And so we talk about it. We talk about I'm in a hard season right now. Like investing is hard in 2023. It's not going as easily as it did in 2021. And so we talk about these hard seasons, and then, we celebrate failures. And so there's not something to be afraid of. And I think that's one of the ways you can really help your kids build confidence as well, is that, if they're not afraid to fail.
I think those two go hand in hand, the confidence and the failure. It's funny, the whole time you're telling this story, I'm the oldest of 3. I don't know if you're the oldest.
Yep, yeah. I am.
Said that, I was like, oh, I feel this. Like, that was me. I think my 5th grade teacher told me, you're going to have a stomach ulcer if you continue at this rate. Because I would hyper stress, type A, very first time has to be perfect. Just like you, I have started seeing that in my oldest son. And it's funny because part of it is exactly what you said, probably what me and my husband are how we were saying and what we were praising. And then my second son has no issue with that. He's just like, I'm going for it. Good. I'll fail. I'll get back up. So it's really interesting to see that, and focusing, like you said, on the effort that's put in versus the outcome, and trying to teach him what I try to live is it's about the journey, not the destination. It's about the confidence piece for me. when I think of them is like, especially in today's world where kids are bombarded, they're not yet. And I'm going to be that. I'm never letting my kid have a cell phone person, but I,
Okay. Okay.
so
Sure.
they're bombarded with social media and opinions and thoughts. And it's like, if you can have the confidence to not care and just do you and focus on what's important to you and what you're here to do, I feel like you'll be much more successful because you have to, I feel like, block out everyone else's opinions and voices and just focus on your progress, especially because your progress might be very different from someone else's who sits right next to you. So that same thing, that concept of like being okay failing and having the confidence to keep going is really important. My husband and I, for our kids.
Sounds like you're on the right track. Your kids are so blessed to have you. For sure.
I was just laughing at your story. I'm like, wow, it's like exactly the same. I feel that.
I think a lot of the oldest kids experience this, right? Too. And I feel bad because they're the guinea pigs, right? I mean, like we don't know how to parent. We're figuring out as we go, and they get all of our figuring out on them. And then by the time you have multiples and the next ones, you're like, oh yeah, I got this. I understand how this works and how to, support them. But those oldest ones, they surprise you. They make you go through so many new experiences, like teaching them to drive a car. That was not very fun. Like, I don't know how to do this. Like, do I really put my hands here and here? And like, I forget how you're supposed to drive a car because I've been driving with my one hand on the bottom of the steering wheel forever, right? That's not the way you're supposed to do it. Yeah. So lots of new experiences as parenting. But Lauren, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so inspiring to hear your story. Your story is just going to keep continuing. Like you've had really amazing success and you're doing good things for people. I applaud you for doing a reggae. I haven't attempted a reggae yet. All of my funds and group investments are in the Reg D realm, but someday I will have a reggae because I, like you, want to really open up alternate investing to as many people as I can. So kudos to you for just going for it right away. I'm proud of you. I'm going to follow in your footsteps someday. But how can people connect with you?
So, I mean, if you're interested in connecting or you want to pick my brain on anything investing or notes or our fund, you can email me directly at lauren@7einvestments.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. It's probably where I hang out most, or I am on Instagram, but email is best. I always welcome an email and connection. We can hop on a call and you can ask me any questions. So yeah, email is best.
Perfect. All right. So to our listener, take advantage of that. I listen to a lot of podcasts and at the end, there's always this, how can we get a hold of you? And whenever I'm a guest on podcasts, I love it when people reach out to me and they're like, oh, I heard you on this podcast and we have a great conversation. So please take advantage of all of these guests that come on Quiet Wealth and who are willing, able, and happy to talk to you about where you are in your investing journey and your wealth building journey. So thanks again for joining. Appreciate you being here. Please share the episode with a friend in need. And remember, we got to share all this education so we can share the wealth. Thanks so much. Bye for now.